Anirodham Nutpadam Nichedam Shashvatam Anikatam Okay, good morning everyone. Namo Buddhaya. Can you enable share, Dipti?
Yes, I can do that. Are you able to share, Venerable?
Yeah, I'm just sharing the document. Okay. Should be okay now. Yeah. All right. So we continue with discussion on practical advice for everyday life, practical Buddhism for everyday life. So, in the past couple of sessions, in my previous sessions, what we've been looking at is how to shape uh, our intention, which is the primary driver, which decides whether a certain path of activity that we engage in becomes wholesome or unwholesome. So we'll continue with that discussion today. So in the previous session, we had discussed how a certain kind of intention could lead to negative actions, negative karmic actions, um, or could lead to positive karmic actions. So essentially, we're looking at what kind of different kinds of karmas we could engage in uh, based on what kind of volitions we activate in our mind stream, what kind of intentions we activate in our mind stream. Um, so in the previous session, we discussed the different kinds of karma that we create. We've seen the different kinds of classifications of karma. In today's session, we're going to look at a specific kind of karma, which leads to propelling of new rebirths. So the process of rebirth, how it is activated, what kind of karma is responsible for a rebirth in the higher realms, what kind of karma is responsible for rebirth in lower realms, what are the causes and conditions which create a new rebirth. So we'll look at that as the slide here, the title says, how to shape volition. So volition is the key driver. So the whole effort is to understand how volition plays a key part in activating those different uh, doorways or pathways of karmic actions, and then hence leading to different kinds of rebirths. Um, so in order to be able to do that, we need to first of all identify what um, intention is, how it appears in our mind stream, um, and then how we can modify it, how we can modulate it with um, positive kind of motivations, like the motivation of renunciation, the motivation of compassion, the motivation of altruistic intention, how we can fuse uh, the intention with these kind of wholesome motivations, and then that would automatically lead to wholesome actions, which would lead to merit being accumulated, which would lead to happier experiences in the future, not just in the future, but even in this lifetime. So that is what we'll do. So before we do that, let's do a short meditation. So in the meditation session itself, I'll tell you how to identify this mind or mental factor called volition or intention. Yeah. And then with practice, you'll be able to identify it, isolate it, and then you'll be able to work on it and ensure that it does not take on a negative aspect. And then automatically, if it takes on a negative aspect, you could trigger unwholesome actions. That would be the cause of suffering in the future. So let's do this meditation. It's a mindfulness meditation. So mindfulness of the body, and we'll use feeling our breath as a proxy for our body. So as you know, breath is a physical object, a subtle physical object. So we'll use that as a proxy for our body. And cultivate mindfulness in relation to the breath. But as we do the meditation, as we try and cultivate mindfulness of breath, we'll also notice that uh, your mind kind of stays away, or it kind of registers feelings, uh, and maybe if you're um, really advanced in your practice, you can actually even cultivate mindfulness of the properties of the different kinds of minds that arise in your mind stream. So we'll discuss that at the end of the meditation session. So I'll give you some pointers during the session itself, and guide you through the meditation. So, and then at the end of the meditation session, we'll do a short motivation setting with a bodhicitta prayer. And then we'll do the discussion, proceed with the discussion for the session today. And towards the end of our session today, I'd like to recite some prayers for all those connected with the center who have passed on, the deceased ex-members of our center. Uh, and then we'll end the session with a dedication for them. We'll dedicate our merit, we'll share our merit with the deceased um, former members of our center. Okay, so let's start with the meditation first. So make sure that you have a good posture for the meditation. Keep your back erect and your shoulders straight, arms relaxed. Keep your right palm in your left palm and let the tip of the thumbs touch each other. Rest your palms in your lap. And if you're sitting on the floor, a full Padmasana would be ideal, but a regular Sukhasana will also do. Ensure that the back is erect though. And just tuck your chin slightly in and uh, rest the tip of your tongue just behind the upper row of teeth and keep your eyes either closed or half open. If you tend to doze off, then maybe half open is better. But if you think that there's too much distraction around you, then you can keep your eyes closed. And just take a moment to just clear away the chatter in your mind about things that do not relate to the discussion that we're going to have today. So just park all the chatter pertaining to your routine and bring the focus of your mind to the discussion that we are going to have today. Now turn the focus of your mind to your in-breath and observe which nostril you're breathing in through. Observe the sensations that you feel, experience in your nostril, the temperature, the pressure of the sensation. Do the same thing for your out breath. Just make a note of which nostril you're breathing out through and observe the sensations as you breathe out. If the sensation is too subtle and you're finding it difficult to register it, maybe you can force your breath a little bit. Let your ears also aid you in the process of registering the sensations. So maybe you can uh, hear the sound of you breathing in and breathing out. And then let the breath settle into its natural flow. And then track the entire body of your in breath as it enters the nostril, passes down your throat into the chest. Observe it, track it all the way through till the point it reverses into the out breath, and the out breath then passes through your lungs, through the throat, through your nostrils, and out of your nostrils. So keep tracking the in breath and the out breath. All the way from the time it enters the nostril and then exits the nostril. Now, as you breathe in and breathe out, your chest moves. So observe the movement of the chest as you breathe in and breathe out. If it's rising, just note it as rising, rising. If it's falling, note it as falling, falling. Do the same thing with the abdomen. The abdomen also rises and falls as you breathe in and breathe out. So observe the movement of the abdomen. If it's rising, just note it as rising, rising. If it's falling, note it as falling, falling. If your mind stays away from the breath, just note that too. If it's wandering, just note it as wandering, wandering. If seeing something, note it as seeing, seeing. Hearing something, note it as hearing, hearing. So whatever the mind is up to, just wherever it is, just make a mental note of it. So if it has wandered away, bring it back gently to the breath. Observe your posture also mentally. You can note it as sitting, sitting. You can feel that you're sitting. So you have the sensation of sitting. And then bring the attention of the mind to the breath again. It's possible that you experience some sensations which are pleasant or unpleasant. So make a note of those pleasant and unpleasant sensations. The feeling of pleasantness or unpleasantness need not be physical in the form of sensations, but could also be mental. There might be an image that pops up in your mind stream which you find to be attractive, pleasant, and hence your mind automatically kind of drifts towards that object. And it starts with you wanting to engage with that object. So note that moment when the mind initiates the process of engaging with that object by saying that I want to experience this mental object. Or there could be some physical discomfort that you're experiencing in your person, pain in your knees or your back, some warmth that you experience somewhere which is uncomfortable, or some tightness in your shoulders, and you want to relieve that discomfort. So note that wanting to relieve the discomfort as wanting, wanting. And then if you absolutely have to do something to relieve the discomfort in the form of maybe stretching or extending your arm or shifting your leg or knee or whatever, note the entire process, wanting to relieve the discomfort in my thigh, stretching my leg, moving my calf, whatever it is, just keep noting it. So now remind yourself of the anchor object for your meditation, the breath. Bring the focus back to the breath. Observe the in breath and the out breath, the entire length of it. Keep it focused on the breath. With that focused mind, let's do a short motivation setting for the session. So let's just recite this Bodhicitta prayer. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my practice of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so these are the things that I would like to cover in the session today. So as I said, we're still exploring um, the concept of karma. Uh, so as I mentioned in the previous sessions, karma essentially is in the nature of this mental factor called intention or volition or chetna in our mind streams. And with that, that is the starting point of any karmic path that we initiate. And the karmic path could be wholesome or unwholesome. And based on that, then you create either positive karma or negative karma. So there are different kinds of karma we had seen. So before we do that, let's just review some of the things that you may have experienced in your meditation session. So, um, observing your breath, what kind of uh, mind would the mind that observes your breath be? So we discussed there's a you could classify the minds into cognitive and affective minds. Yeah. So a mind that experiences or realizes or notices, registers the breath. What what type of mind is that? Is it a cognitive mind or is it a affective mind? Yeah, anyone? You can just unmute yourself and.
Cognitive.
Yeah, it's a cognitive event, right? So cognitive because it is experiencing some sort of a sensation. Yeah, and the sensation here in this case is tactile sensation. Yeah, uh, it's a it's a my it's a sensation that is registered by the mm, tactile consciousness. Yeah. So just like the tactile consciousness, our mind stream also has other kinds of sensory consciousness. So uh, now the other classification of mind, there's the sensorial minds and the non-sensorial minds or the mental minds. So the mind that registers the sensation of the breath is a sensorial mind, yeah, sensorial consciousness. Can you think about an example of other sensorial consciousnesses that you may have registered in your meditation?
Visions.
Visions, okay.
That would be eye conscious, is it?
If your eyes are open and you actually notice a physical form, then that's a
But
sensorial.
in meditation, when you see images.
That is a mental consciousness. Yeah, that's a mental image. Yeah. So that's not a sensorial consciousness. That's not a sensory perception. Yeah. That could be categorized as a thought. Mhm. It's not a direct perception. So sensorial consciousness, any other for example of sensorial consciousness that you may have experienced? So there's the breath, of course. Then if you've noticed any warmth that you experience in your body somewhere, yeah. Or if your window is open and there's a cool breeze flowing through the window and it touches your skin and you experience uh, that touch. And that mind that registers that touch is also sensorial consciousness. Or if you hear some sounds either in your room or maybe outside your room, that would also be an example of a sensorial consciousness, an ear consciousness. Yeah. Because you're keeping your eyes closed, I think you will not register visual consciousnesses, eye consciousnesses, or visual objects rather. But the ears are not closed, and every now and then your mind gets distracted and it notes some sound coming from some other source. That is an example of a sensorial consciousness, a sound consciousness, ear consciousness that registers the sound. Then if there's something being cooked in the kitchen in your household, and there's the wind carries along that smell, uh, and you register it, that is also an example of sensorial consciousness. uh, while what Dipti said is an example of a mental consciousness, an image of something that or a recollection of some object that just popped up in your mind stream. Yeah, that's a mental consciousness. uh, so within the sensorial consciousnesses also, there are these five categories. There's the ear consciousness, the eye consciousness, the touch consciousness, the tactile consciousness, the smell consciousness, or the taste consciousness, and the smell consciousness. So these are the five different kinds of sensorial consciousnesses. And then there's the sixth category of the mental consciousness. It's not sensorial, it is mental. So you have an image of something, yeah, or you recollect something. There's a memory of something that you register. Um, or it need not be a memory. It could also be a direct, cognition. For example, if you hear the sound of something, a sound outside, coming from outside, and you immediately realize that this is the sound of uh, the fruit vendor passing through the streets. Yeah. How do you come to that realization, that knowledge? It's because you've heard a sound, and from your previous experience, you kind of have recognized this relationship between that sound and the sound of the fruit vendor. So your knowledge of the fruit vendor is inferred from the perception of sound that you have, and your recollection of the relationship between that sound and the sound vendor's voice. Yeah. So based on those things, you infer something. So that is another category of minds that arise in a mind stream. So there's something called an inference or an inferential cognition. So even when we talk about cognitive states, there are the inferences, inferential cognitions, and direct perceptions. So the sound that you hear is a direct perception, whereas the mind that knows that there's a fruit vendor on the street, that mind is an inference or an inferential cognition. Yeah. So that's another category of mind that arises in a mind stream. So inferences and direct perceptions. Or then there is the sensorial consciousness and mental consciousnesses. Now let's talk about another classification that we can register in a mental experience. So when you're doing your meditation, um, there might be some discomfort that you experience in your knees or in your shoulder, in your back. Uh, and that discomfort is registered as an unpleasant feeling. Yeah. So feeling is what is called a mental factor, whereas the mind that actually registers that sensation itself, and just the sensation, the mere entity of that sensation. For example, if the room is hot, and there's a cool breeze, a cool draft kind of passing through, and it touches your skin, and you register the touch of the draft on your skin, that sensation is the main mind. But based on that sensation, because it's generally hot, and because that is it leaves a kind of cooling effect, and you kind of register that cooling effect as being pleasant. That feeling of pleasantness is a mental factor. The mere entity of that sensation is the mind that registers the mere entity of that sensation is the main mind. So there's the main mind and the mental factor of feeling that go together. So merely registering the entity of the sensation is the main mind, whereas there's the associated kind of aspect of the mind that registers the pleasantness or the unpleasantness or the neutrality of that sensation. That is the feeling mental factor. So, along with the main mind, there are these other parts of the mind called the mental factors that go along. And based on that feeling, then it's possible that if you're in a hot room that is relatively warm, and there's a cool breeze that passes through and it touches your skin, and you register a cool sensation, and then you feel that this is pleasant, because that feeling of pleasantness, because you think that that is pleasant, then you want to have more of it. So that wanting mind is takes on the form of desire or craving for that kind of sensation. So that craving, that desire, is again another kind of mental factor. Yeah, it's an affective state of the mind. So there's the cognitive state which registers the sensation itself, uh, and then there's the affective state that goes along with this cognitive state, or which says that I want this sensation, I crave this sensation, I crave this pleasant sensation. So that is what is called the mental factor of either desire or craving or attachment. On the contrary, if the room is hot and there's a hot draft going through the room, and that is registered, that sensation is registered, then you find that the feeling that you have is of being that sensation being unpleasant. And if the sensation is registered as unpleasant, then you want to be separated from that unpleasant sensation. You might even want to do something to remove that unpleasant sensation. So that um, wanting to not be not to experience that sensation takes on a slightly more intense form, and you might actually even generate some sort of an anger towards that hot draft or the source of that hot draft. So that anger that you generate is another form of mental factor. So again, that is an example of an affective state that could arise in your mind stream. So there's the cognitive state which registers the sensation, and then these affective states of either desire or anger towards the source of that sensation. These arise. So that classification again one needs to be aware of. Then uh, while you are meditating, as I said, there could be discomfort that you experience in some part of your body, and then you want to relieve that discomfort. So you stretch your leg, or you loosen your, just shift your back or something like that. So all that starts with a mind which says, I want to relieve this discomfort. So that mind that wants to relieve the discomfort is another mental factor. It's called volition or intention. Yeah. So the process of relieving that sensation, unpleasant sensation, starts with this wanting to relieve that unpleasant sensation, and that wanting mind is what is called volition, and that is at the root of the activity paths that we initiate. And we need to be very mindful of this mental factor called intention or volition or chetna, and make sure that it does not initiate any kind of unwholesome activity path. And for that, of course, you need training in you things like the concept of compassion, the concept of bodhicitta, the concept of renunciation. But it has to start with enhancing your ability to register this mental factor of intention and volition. Hence, it is very critical that when you're doing your meditation, you be aware of all these things that arise, all these mental experiences, episodes that arise in your mind stream. And when you actually are aware of all these, when your mindfulness is strong, you will not be led, uh, helplessly by forces of either desire or craving, or forces of anger or hostility, or maybe forces of just afflictive doubt. because you're now aware of what is triggering that desire. You're aware of what is triggering that anger. Yeah. And if your mindfulness is strong enough, it gives you some time to calibrate your response to that stimulus. Yeah. And with adequate training, then you can ensure that you generate more of wholesome intentions. And those wholesome intentions then will ensure that your responses are uh, relatively wholesome. So that's the reason, you need to kind of invest in cultivating this um, ability to be mindful of the different mental episodes that arise in your mental continuum. And particularly, you need to be very aware of this mental factor of volition or intention. Yeah. With that will help you to shape or calibrate your responses. Right now, our responses are reactive. You register some stimulus, you notice, you note it as either pleasant or unpleasant, and then immediately, reflexively, you kind of, as a reflex, you either want to, you're drawn towards of the pleasant sensation, or you want to be separated from the unpleasant sensation, and then you initiate very unwise or unwholesome kind of uh, activity paths, and then that leads to all kinds of karma being accumulated. So what are the different kinds of karma that get accumulated? So there's the white karma that you can accumulate through the through ensuring that your intention is wholesome. So if your intention is aided by the motivation of compassion or altruistic intention, then it's possible that the karmic path that it initiates, that intention initiates, uh, becomes wholesome, and then you accumulate merit based on it. Uh, on the other hand, if it is influenced by afflictions like anger or excessive desire or craving, then it takes on a negative. Uh, it initiates a negative activity path, and then that leads to negative karma being created. So positive, negative karma, and then within karma, depending on what kind of function it delivers, you can speak about different kinds of karma, and we've seen that classification. And towards the end of the previous session, we'd also seen how we can modify one's behavior to ensure that we create the right causes for a good rebirth in the future. Not just that, uh, we also ensure that we are blessed with, endowed with the right conditions to, favorable conditions to, continue our spiritual development in the future also. So those are the things that we'd already discussed. And just to revise some of those things, we'd seen that these are the 10 uh, karmic paths that we initiate mostly. So there's the three doors through which we engage in physical, verbal, and mental actions. So the physical actions of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And then there's the verbal actions of lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle gossip. And then the mental actions of coveting something which is not your own, harmful intent towards others, and wrong views. Yeah, uh, wrong views of not or wrong views like denying the existence of the law of karma. So those kind of things. Yeah. So based on uh, you know these actions are called the 10 non virtuous actions. Um, if you engage in any of these 10 non virtuous actions, uh, then it leads to some sort of karma. And in this case, because these are non-virtuous, it will lead to black karma being, or negative karma being created. And the karma then yields certain kind of consequences or results. And we've seen that you can classify the results too into these categories. So there's what is called the ripened result in the form of a rebirth in a certain physical aspect. Uh, then there's something called the environmental results. So it decides what kind of environment you're born in. Uh, and then there's something called the results which are congruent with the cause. And within that, you can speak about uh, experiences that are congruent with the cause and behavior that is congruent with the cause. So, to take an example, if you've engaged in the action of killing somebody out of anger, uh, the ripened result would be rebirth in one of the lower realms. And in this case, killing, because it is the heaviest of all the 10 non virtuous actions. Um, See, if you engage in any of these non virtuous actions, unless purified, it will lead it will create a cause for rebirth in the lower realms. The lower realms being the realm of animals, the realm of hungry ghosts, and the realm of the hell beings. And again, uh, in terms of the seriousness of the negative action, killing is supposed to be the worst. Yeah. Then stealing, and then sexual misconduct, and then lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, idle gossip, and so on. So, any of these actions, if you engaged in, creates the cause for rebirth in the lower realm. But killing, being the most serious of the 10 non virtuous actions, creates the most negative, uh, the heaviest kind of potency for rebirth in the worst kind of the lower realms. And the worst lower kind of lower realm is the hell realm. So killing, if you don't do anything to purify that action, would lead to rebirth in the hell realms. So that is the ripened result. The environmental result of killing would be that because you've shortened somebody else's life, you've deprived or taken away possibly the life force from somebody else. Uh, it becomes difficult. You are born in an environment where the environmental factors are not potent enough to sustain your life force. So, if your life force is challenged, then the environmental factors in the environment that you abide in will not have the potency to revive it. So, the food in the environment that you abide in will not be potent enough to cure you. Medicine would not be potent enough. Drinks would not be potent enough, and you'll have very little power to cure your sickness. So that is the environmental result of the action of killing. Uh, then the action of killing also leads to um, experiences which are congruent with the cause, in this case, the action of killing, and the behavior that is congruent with the cause. So the experience that is congruent with the action of killing is shortened human life, or shortened life rather. Yeah. Uh, you've uh, shortened somebody else's life. Yeah, you taken away the life force in another person. So that creates the cause for your lifespan to be reduced. Yeah. So this could the cause of killing could lead to a result in even a fortunate rebirth. So if you have a human rebirth, which is a fortunate rebirth, because you've engaged in the action of killing in the past, and that action then ripens, the cause ripens, the result that it yields is shortened human life in this lifetime, and that too it will be characterized with a lot of sickness. And the behavior that is congruent with the cause is that you will have a liking for killing from a very young age. So that's how that action of killing will fructify in the form of a behavior that is congruent with the action of killing. So similarly, you can talk about ripened results and results congruent with the cause and environment results for the other 10 non-virtues. In terms of the uh, white karmic process, or the action of abandoning those 10 non virtues. So that is a virtuous action, abandoning the 10 non virtues, or engaging in meditative samadhis or absorptions. That is a virtuous action. So if the virtuous action that you engaged in is serious, and it leads to serious virtuous karma, then that virtuous karma will lead to rebirth as a form or a formless realm god, the higher realm gods. Yeah. So that is the ripened result of that white karma. If the virtuous karma is medium, then that would lead to rebirth as a desire ram god. And if the virtuous karma is small, then that would lead to rebirth as a human. So these are the fortunate rams, the human ram and the uh, ram of gods. Within the ram of gods, there's the ram of the desire ram, and then the form and the formless ram. So gods could be reborn in either of these two. To be reborn in the form of the formless rams, you have to have um, cultivated certain kinds of samadhis, meditative absorptions. Yeah. So that would be the ripened result of the virtuous action of abandoning the 10 non virtues. In terms of the environmental results, what we just saw in the case of killing, the opposite of that. So you'll be born in an environment where the environmental factors would have a high potency to aid you to sustain your life force. Yeah. Uh, so food, drink, medicine, they would have greater power to cure your illnesses. Although it's possible that because of your good karma, you may not have illnesses. Whatever illnesses you have will be short lived. Yeah. So environmental factors would be more potent in sustaining your life force and keeping it healthy. In terms of behavior that is congruent with the cause, from a very young age, you would have the you'd have the tendency to act in compassionate actions. So you'd be able to develop renunciation and compassion on your own. And in terms of experiences that are congruent with the cause, because you've abandoned the non-virtue of killing, you abandon the non-virtue of taking somebody else's life, shortening somebody else's life. You're blessed with this experience of having a longer life because you've engaged in the virtuous action of abandoning stealing, depriving somebody else of his resources or her resources. You're blessed with this experience of having abundance of resources or greater wealth in your life, harmony with people. So these are the experiences that are congruent with the cause. In this case, the white karma. Yeah. So for us, as serious spiritual practitioners, it's not adequate to just aim for a special high birth. What we are targeting is liberation from the cycle of rebirth, birth, death, and then rebirth. So we're aiming for liberation and omniscience. Yeah. So what we need is not just a fortunate rebirth as a human or a god, but we also need that rebirth to be characterized by uh, favorable, conducive, ripened qualities. And so what are these conducive, ripened qualities that we should be aiming for? So long life, healthy body, uh, pleasing appearance, trustworthy speech, abundant resources, mental strength, and such. So these are the ripened qualities that we should be aiming to, mm, build the karma for. And then, what? Why do we need all these conducive, favorable qualities? Why do we need a long life? You could have a short life filled with pleasure. Why do we need a longer life? Why do we need a healthy body, greater mental strength? Why do we need trustworthy speech? Yeah.
So we can actually practice and we benefit for others.
Yeah, that's right. So with long
And
life, it gives you more opportunity to do practice the spiritual path and progress in the path. Yeah, because you know we've taken infinite rebirths in samsara, and there's a lot of negativity that is piled up in our mind stream. Uh, so just to purify that, we need some investment in terms of time. Yeah. So the longer our lives are, the more time we have to purify some of those negativities. Yeah. So we would be able to then progress in dharma. And if you get more time, then you also are able to create more virtues, not just purification of the negativities of the past, but you also have the opportunity to create more virtues for your own sake and also aid other people in creating virtue. Yeah. Why do you need pleasing appearance? So that you can attract more disciples. Yeah. Uh, and then why do you need trustworthy speech? So that you can enable others to apprehend the truth. Uh, if your speech, if you're not deemed to be trustworthy, and people may kind of be around you and listen to what you're saying, hear you out rather. But because your speech lacks the quality of trustworthiness, they're not going to implement or act on what instructions you give them. But if your speech is deemed to be trustworthy, people are willing to take that leap of faith at times and just follow your instructions. There are certain instructions which are difficult to kind of understand at times. In such instances, it have if you have faith in the teacher, uh, if you deem that teacher to have trustworthy speech, then you be willing to take that leap of faith and implement the instructions, that act on the instructions that that person has given. Abundant resources, practice of spirituality also needs material resources. So if you have material resources, then through the material resources you can attract other sentient beings. For example, if you were to um, give some spiritual instructions on spirituality to a person who is starving, that's not going to help. The person is kind of worried about, he's thinking about where his next meal is going to come from. If you don't have the material resources to uh, you know deal with his immediate suffering, the suffering of hunger, he's not going to be very receptive of any advice on how you're going to make this optimum precious human rebirth valuable. Those kind of instructions are not going to register with that person. So you need to be in a position to aid him, assist him in relief of the immediate suffering. Yeah. So if you have material resources, access to material resources, then you can deploy those material resources to take care of those immediate sources of suffering, relieve that suffering for him. And then that person can become a subject for the other instructions. So material resources are also required. Healthy body so that you can practice with intensity. A lot of the spiritual practices need uh, you to be in good physical shape. For example, the practice of purification of your negativities from the past, one of the practices is to make prostrations to the confession Buddha, the 35 confession Buddhas. Now, if you are not in the best of state, you can't offer prostrations then. Then you'll have to rely only on making mental prostrations. So if you have good health, then you'll be able to do even physical prostrations. So you need healthy body to practice these kind of techniques which involve austerities also. Yeah. Mental strength, just because you decided that you're going to practice the spiritual path, it's a noble decision, doesn't mean that there won't be any kind of obstacles in your path. Every now and then you'll have to deal with some obstacles in your practice. In which case, if you don't have the right mental strength, you will not be able to persevere on the path. So, good mental strength is required for you to persevere and keep working uh, for one's own benefit and others' benefit. So, what are the causes for these uh, ripened qualities, favorable conditions, conducive qualities? So, long life, uh, the cause for long life is giving up killing, abandoning killing, or harming sentient beings, or maybe saving a life. If you save somebody else's life, it's in danger, and you save the other person's life, then that creates a cause for you to experience a longer life in the future, or maybe even this in this lifetime. Giving food to the needy, giving medicine to them, anything that helps the other sentient beings to sustain their life force or prolong it if it's in danger. Yeah. So that would be a cause for you to ensure that you would be blessed with a longer life uh, in this lifetime or even in the future. Pleasing appearance, the cause for pleasing appearance is to practice patience, not to be, you know, not to get angry easily. Practice patience, even in the face of provocation from other people. Be patient. Do not react to their provocations. Yeah. Practice patience. Or pleasing appearance could also be caused by offering of bright lamps or erecting images of holy objects, yeah, to represent the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the holy entities, holy beings, or giving away new clothes and jewelry. Um, yeah, it's mentioned as a cause. Trustworthy speech. Make sure that you do not, you're very careful in the use of words when you speak, or make sure that you do not knowingly or unknowingly mislead people, exaggerate things. Yeah, take pains to abandon any kind of non-virtues related to speech. So that would be the cause for trustworthy speech. Abundant resources, practicing of the practice of generosity through giving away of clothes. So just generating this mind of giving, whatever resources that you have, generate this mind of sharing those resources with others. So not just material resources, it could be also resources in the form of your merit. Yeah. So giving clothes, food, drink, jewelry, and so on to people asking for them, or helping people who do not even ask for your help, but you find them to be in need. A healthy body, performing chores that others are too busy to do, or giving others food and drink. So these are the causes that would help you with the conducive, ripened qualities of long life, healthy body, pleasing appearance, trustworthy speech, abundant resources, mental strength, and such in the future. Yeah. Uh, so, as I said, what we're going to discuss for our session today is one specific kind of application of this principle of karma, which leads to uh, a new rebirth. So, what is the causal sequence or the causal process that leads to a new rebirth? So, we talked about these favorable conditions. So, these are conditions that you would be endowed with after having been reborn in uh, a favorable realm or a fortunate realm. Yeah, you want to be reborn in a fortunate realm of either a human, as a human, or as a deva, and then as a human also you want all these favorable conditions. Yeah. So, what is the cause that uh, propels you into the fortunate realm? Or what are the likely causes that could lead to a rebirth in the lower realms? So, that causal sequence, that causal process is explained through this you know, uh, concept called the 12 links of dependent origination, or the 12 nidanas. So it's a very important application of the principle of law of karma. And it explains um, the specific causal elements, the sequence of these causal elements that eventually then propel, impel uh, a new rebirth. So we'll look at what these elements are. There are 12 elements in this causal sequence. So what are these causal elements? So as I said, uh, th- this causal sequence helps you explain the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth in samsara. So the elements that make up this causal sequence are essentially in the nature of karma initiated through your physical door, verbal door, or the mental door, and that karma is triggered by an affliction. Yeah, affliction of either anger or attachment. Yeah, or some other affiliated affliction, and then that triggers the causal sequence and leads to rebirth in the samsara. So let's look at what these causal elements are. What are the specific kinds of afflictions that trigger this causal process? So the Buddha gave instructions on this 12 links of dependent origination, and it's captured in the sutra called the Rice Seedling Sutra, or the Shalishtam Sutra. And the sutra says, and just a extract from the sutra, it says, because this exists, that will occur. So it's explaining the causes of dependent origination, or causal conditioned origination. Because this exists, that will occur. Nothing exists, nothing occurs without any causes or conditions driving it. And because this has arisen, that will arise. Yeah. So similarly, because of ignorance, the compositional factors arise, and then the whole sequence of the 12 links is explained. So that is explained in the sutra. I'll just read this sutra, and then I'll introduce the 12 elements, and then we'll take a break for five minutes and then continue our session. So the sutra reads, Pratitya samutpado nama yadidam asmina sati idam bhavati asya utpad adidam utpatyate yaduta avidya pratyaya sanskara. So the first link is avidya, and avidya conditions the second link, which is sanskara. So avidya pratyaya sanskara. Sanskara pratyayam vijnanam. Vijnana pratyayam nama rupam pratyayam shadayatnam. Shadayatana pratyaya sparsha. Sparsha pratyaya vedana. Vedana pratyaya trishna. Trishna pratyaya upadanam. Upadana pratyayo bhava. भव प्रत्यय जाति जाति प्रत्यय जरा मरण शोक परिदेव दुख दौर मनस्य upayasah sambhavanti. So these explain the 12 links, describe the 12 links, and the forward sequence of the causal processes explained, where starting with the first link of avidya or ignorance, you proceed through the causal sequence of all the 12 elements, and then it leads to the suffering experiences of jara maran, so aging and death, and a lot of lamentation, shok, paridev, dukha, dora manasya, upayasa, sambhavanti. And then the reverse of this causal sequence is also described here. एवमस्य केवलस्य महतो दुःख स्कंदस्य samudaya bhavati tatra avidya nirodhat sanskara nirodha. So the reverse process, avidya nirodhat sanskara nirodha. So if you uh, pause or eliminate avidya, then that leads to the cessation of the sanskaras. So avidya nirodhat sanskara nirodhat vijnana nirodha, vijnana nirodhan nama rupa nirodha, nama rupa nirodhat shadayatana nirodha, shadayatana nirodhat sparsha nirodha, sparsha nirodhat vedana nirodha, vedana nirodhat trishna nirodha, Trishna nirodhat upadana nirodha, upadana nirodhat bhava nirodhat jati nirodha, jati nirodhat jara marana shoka parideva dukkha dora manasya upayasa nirudhyante evamasya kevalasya mahato dukkha skandasya nirodho bhavati ayam uchyate pratitya samutpado bhagavata. So the Bhagwan explained the principle of pratitya samutpad thus. So through the causal sequence of these 12 elements, the 12 causal elements, the forward sequence, and the sequence that leads to the cessation of each subsequent link in this causal sequence of 12 elements. So this is an extract from the sutra called the Rice Seedling Sutra. So these are the 12 elements that the Buddha has spoken of. So the first link in this causal sequence is the link called ignorance. We'll see what each of these links mean. So the first one is ignorance. The second one is compositional factors. So the first one is avidya. Compositional factors is sanskar. Consciousness is vijnan. Fourth is name and form, namarup. Fifth is the sixth consciousness or shadayatan. Then contact is sparsh, the sixth element. Feeling is vedna, seventh one. Craving is trishna. And trishna leads to the ninth element, which is upadan, grasping. Upadan leads to bhava, which is becoming. And then becoming creates the cause for a new rebirth. So jati, and jati leads to jara marana, which is aging and death. So that is the sequence of the 12 elements. Avidya, sanskar, vijnana, nama, rupa, shadayatana, sparsha, vedana, trishna, upadana, bhava, jati, and jara marana. So what are each of these elements? A description of each of these elements. So we'll look at the description of each of these elements maybe after
Can you please show the slide again, the previous slide?
This one?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just took a screenshot. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, Dipti, maybe we pause for 5 minutes, just take a 5-minute break and then reassemble.
Yes, Venerable, it's 11:10, 11:15 we'll get back.
Yeah. Let's reassemble at 11:15 and then we'll conclude this discussion. And then we'll do a few prayers for our deceased members. Yeah.
Do you want
Okay.
me to share any prayers, Venerable? Or do you...
I have some prayer. I'll share that and then we'll read it. Yeah.
Okay,
We'll recite it together.
thank you, Venerable.
Okay. So let's pause for 5 minutes then.
I think we can all start coming back. If you're all back, please show me a thumbs up so we can let Venerable Kalden know. Thank you, Manishla. Can we all please come back? Venerable Kalden. Thank you, Maya Mala. Thank you, SK.
Yeah, Dipti.
Okay, Venerable, we are ready to start.
All right. All right, let's begin. Yeah. Okay, so the first link, the link of avidya. So what kind of avidya are we referring to here? Anyone recollects this from any of our discussions in the previous past sessions? What kind of ignorance are we talking about here? Ignorance generally implies that you don't know something, right? Uh, that's the general interpretation of this term, ignorance. But here, actually, it doesn't mean that you're not knowing something. It actually implies certain kind of misknowing of things. Yeah. And what exactly is this nature of misknowing? So there are two kinds of misknowing that are spoken of when we speak of ignorance here. There's the ignorance of the true nature, true reality, true nature of phenomena. So how does this ignorance manifest? It manifests in us apprehending things to have uh, some sort of an independent, autonomous existence. Whereas the reality is that their existence is conditioned through causes. Yeah, uh, they do not come. They're not kind of self-existing. They do not exist from their own side. A sprout or a sapling comes into being because of the seed that causes it. Yeah, and other conditions, of course. So, and there are other ways in which this ignorance manifests, but essentially it kind of grasps at, apprehends some sort of a self or a self-existing essence in phenomena. So that is the ignorance that we are speaking about, and a specific application of that ignorance is when we think about the person. Uh, so the person itself, for example, myself. Um, my name is Kalden, but if you look for an essence called Kaldenness in me, it does not exist. But we tend to kind of grasp at that kind of an essence. How does that grasping ignorance manifest? So I say that, I'm tall or short or whatever. Yeah, let's say I'm short. Yeah. Uh, so the I is being equated to the physical aggregate. The physical aggregate is which is what is short. Yeah. But the conception of I is being equated with this physical aggregate of short. Yeah. Which is deemed to be short. And I also could have these moments when I say I'm sad. Yeah. Again, the conception of I is being equated with a mind. Yeah. It is a mind that is sad. So it's the mental aggregate of sadness that the I is being equated to. So we have this tendency of equating the seeing a self or equating ourselves with the physical aggregates and the mental aggregates, our physical and our mental aggregates, which are merely the basis for some sort of an I label to be given. Yeah, this the I is just a label. Yeah? It doesn't have any kind of independent existence apart from the physical and the mental aggregates. So if I look for an I apart from my physical aggregates, my physical body, and the mental continuum that is associated with this physical body, there's no such I. But yet, generally, we tend to kind of think about the existence of such a I, which owns these physical aggregates, which owns these mental aggregates. Yeah. So that kind of conception is what is at the root of all our suffering experiences. And it's a discussion that we'll do in detail maybe in subsequent sessions. But right now, just you know, make a note of what kind of ignorance we are speaking about here. So the ignorance of suchness or ignorance of the true nature of reality, yeah, and specifically apply to the person itself, yeah. So the person sees some sort of a self, and that self is equated with the physical and the mental aggregates. So that conception of an independent, autonomous, self-existing self, yeah, that is the ignorance that is being spoken of here. And then there's another form of ignorance, which is the ignorance of how the law of cause and effect works. Yeah. So these kind of ignorances are being referred to here. So that is the first link. So when we perceive persons or phenomena, we hold that they have an autonomous self, that they can be established by their own nature. So that is the that grasping at that kind of a self, that kind of essence, autonomous essence, is the kind of ignorance that we are speaking of here. Okay, and then that ignorance leads to certain, it influences, drives certain kind of actions from our side. So the actions are what we call as the sanskaras or the compositional factors. And they can take on a meritorious form, they can take on an unmeritorious form, or an immutable form. So these are the three different kinds of compositional factors. So if your actions are motivated by ignorance, most of our actions are motivated by the ignorance that I just spoke of. We create karma, yeah, the compositional factors, and that karma then produces the physical and the mental aggregates that we experience in our future lives. So, what are these meritorious and immutable karmas? So, the unmeritorious karma is essentially accumulated from yearning or obsessing over the pleasant experiences of this lifetime. So, we are familiar, acquainted with the pleasant experiences, the pleasures, sensual pleasures of this life, and then we crave for those kind of experiences, and in the process we may engage in unwholesome actions to uh, possess those experiences, to own those experiences. Uh, so unwholesome actions could be at times severe. For example, you may even engage in the act of stealing, lying, or even in certain instances maybe even killing. So if you engage in the act of killing, that's an unwholesome action. That action of killing, as we had discussed, becomes a cause for you to uh, experience the ripened result in a lower realm. So it impels rebirth in a lower realm. Yeah. And the results, it says, are mutable. So there's still some hope, even if we have created the negative karma of having killed somebody. That action can be purified to some extent. If you, for example, advance in your spiritual practice and you cultivate the wisdom of what is called emptiness or selflessness, then that wisdom can lead to the negative karma of having killed somebody, which would have impelled a rebirth in the lower realm, that being purified in the sense that it would yield a minor discomfort. So it would ripen, the fruit would take on the form of a minor discomfort. So in that sense, it is mutable. So then there's the meritorious karma of abandoning the 10 non-virtues, or in which case you're primarily kind of focused on uh, happier experiences in the future. But you're still kind of grasping at sensual happiness, although it's for a higher, uh, in a higher realm, in a fortunate realm, in a future life, it would still create some karma. So that karma impels rebirth as a maybe a god in the desire realm, or maybe human. Yeah. So this is meritorious karma, and even this is mutable. So you could, through some actions, if you deem the human rebirth to be more fortunate than the rebirth in the realm of gods, do some practices where that positive karma, instead of propelling you into the realm of gods, which is not such a good plane to practice spirituality, that karma yields a rebirth in the realm of humans, which is deemed to be a plane where spirituality can be practiced better. Yeah. So, in that sense, that karma is also mutable. Then there's something called immutable karma, which is essentially the consequence of your practicing what is called meditative absorptions, samadhis. Here, what you're doing is you're repudiating, rejecting the sensual pleasures of even the future lives, not just this life, but even the future lives. And you crave, or rather, you indulge in happy experiences or happy feelings that come from the samadhis, the single pointed concentration that you cultivate in the samadhis. And then that uh, happy feeling, or the craving for that happy feeling, creates some karma which leads to rebirth in the higher realms, or the realm of gods, uh, and specifically within the realm of gods, it leads to rebirth in the form realm, and within the form realm, there are four absorption planes. So rebirth in one of the first three realms. If you repudiate the feeling of happiness also, and you yearn for only feelings of equanimity, some meditation practitioners, they have cultivated their samadhis to an extent where they do not crave for happy feelings also. They just want to abide in a feeling of equanimity. And in that case, that would lead to rebirth in one of the higher planes above the third absorption plane. So the fourth plane and the formless lamp. So maybe again a discussion that we can do some other time. But the point I was trying to make here is that you have these different kinds of karmas. Some of them are mutable and some of them are immutable. And these are caused by ignorance, of course. Ignorance of the ignorance of the law of karma is what will lead to unmeritorious karma. So you feel that your action of killing would have no consequences because you don't believe in the law of karma, and that is going to lead to unmeritorious karma. Uh, Even if you abandon the 10 non virtues because you have belief in the law of karma, because your action is still ignorant in the sense that it has not abandoned the ignorance of suchness, or grasping at a autonomous self in person and phenomena, it would still be kind of a contaminated action. Although meritorious, it would still be a contaminated action, and that can impel, that meritorious karma can impel a fortunate rebirth. Immutable karma, a very specific kind of karma where you cultivated meditative absorptions. But again, this is colored, it is kind of influenced by ignorance, because you haven't abandoned the ignorance of suchness, or ignorance about the true nature of reality. And it would still yield rebirth in a fortunate higher realm, but still part of samsara. So these are the three different kinds of karma which keep you bonded in bound in samsara. Okay. So the third element is the element of causal link is consciousness, vijnana. So the first one is avidya, sanskar, and then vijnana. And vijnana, you can think about it as having two parts. So there's the causal consciousness and a resultant consciousness. So when you engage in a karmic action, it leaves an imprint on your mind stream. So the consciousness that immediately arises in your mind stream when karma is stamped or imprinted in your mind stream, that consciousness is the causal consciousness. And then that consciousness will connect with the first moment of the next lifetime, or whatever form you take on in the next lifetime. So that would be the resultant consciousness. So consciousness that arises in your mind stream immediately after conception into a new rebirth. So that is the resultant consciousness. So let's take an example. So if you are motivated by hatred, driven by hatred, motivated by anger, and then your action is driven by hatred, and you engage in the negative karmic action of taking somebody's life. So that's the compositional factor. It leaves, that karma leaves a seed imprint in your mind stream. It's planted in your mind stream. The consciousness that holds that mind stream, immediately arising when the imprint is planted, is the causal consciousness. And then this negative karma propels a rebirth as a hell being in the lower realm. The consciousness that immediately arises at the time of conception in the new rebirth is the resultant consciousness. So all your karmic actions, they leave behind some sort of imprints, yeah. And these imprints or instincts, they permeate the consciousness. The consciousness holds those instincts and the imprints. And then at a later stage, those seeds are ripened by other links from the 12 links of dependent origination, which are the links of craving and grasping. We'll discuss these. Yeah. So the fourth link is the link of name and form. So avidya, sanskar, vijnana, namarup. So the resultant consciousness attaches itself to a new physical form. Yeah. So that is the form part in this name and form. And it also then triggers the other mental aggregates of feeling or discrimination or compositional factors and consciousness. So the mental part of the resultant consciousness and the physical form that it attaches itself to, that is the fourth link, the name and form. So form is the physical aggregate of the first instance of the fetal aspect or the fetal form that comes in the next lifetime, and in which the consciousness is placed, or rather the consciousness is attached to that form. So this is the fourth element, fourth link, name and form. Then the fifth one is the six senses, or the Shadayatan. Ayatan, the six ayatans are the Shadayatans. So the six sense faculties of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. So these are the senses, physical sense organs. And then there's the mental organ of mind, sense organ of mind. So the six sense faculties of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, from the point of having been formed till the point where one can actually discriminate between objects as being either pleasant or unpleasant. So from the second moment of your rebirth in the new lifetime, these sense faculties have started evolving. Yeah. But even after they've evolved, you haven't attained the ability to discriminate between objects as being pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And that discrimination, till that discrimination or the ability to discriminate arises in your mind stream, that duration is what is being referred to here through the link of the six senses. Yeah. So in the formless realm, there are no forms, no physical forms. So the link of form from the name and form is not present. And the five physical senses of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, they are not present. You just have the mind in the formless realm. The seventh or the sixth link is the link of contact. And when is this link registered? So three conditions have to come together. There's an external object, then the sense organ, either the eye or the ear or the nose or the tongue or the body, and a previous moment of consciousness which drives the mind towards that physical object, the external object, or the mental object. These three conditions come together and contact is kind of registered. Yeah. So this is the sparsha link or the contact link. And based on contact, then you register something as being either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. So when the contact is with a pleasant object, you have a feeling of happiness. When the contact is with an unpleasant object, you have a feeling of suffering. When the contact is with a neutral object, you have a feeling of equanimity. So the feeling of happiness, suffering, and equanimity, that is the seventh link or the link of Vedana. And based on what feeling you've experienced, then you can generate craving for that feeling. So craving again takes on these three forms where you want not to be separated from happy feelings. So the feeling is of happiness, you do not want to be separated from that. So that is what uh, the craving will take the aspect of. If the feeling is of suffering, then you want to be separated from suffering and you cling to this separation. You cling to this separation, you hold on to this separation. You don't, you want to be kind of, forever separated from that kind of suffering. And then there is the wanting that our equanimity does not decline. So if you, the experience of, uh, so in the meditative absorptions, you experiencing equanimity, and you don't want that kind of equanimity to be to decline. So you're craving uh, for that kind of equanimity. Yeah. So this is the seventh or the eighth link, the link of craving or trishna. So when ignorance is present and contact occurs with any of these pleasant or unpleasant or neutral object, then it serves as a contributory factor, uh, uh, and then it registers, uh, then it kind of develops into some sort of a craving. Yeah. But if ignorance is not present in your mind stream, you eliminated ignorance. For example, the highly realized beings, having after they attain certain states of realization, they've eliminated ignorance. So they do register some sort of feelings, yeah, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, but they do not develop any kind of craving towards the pleasant object. They do not uh, develop any kind of craving for the separation from unpleasant objects, or they do not crave any kind of experience of equanimity. They do not develop any kind of craving. So this is the eighth link, the link of Trishna, craving. The ninth link is grasping, which is essentially a heightened form of the previous link. So grasping is heightened craving. And when craving increases, we desire the object. We want to own it. We want to make it our own. Yeah. We kind of grasp at it. Yeah. And not just wanting it, we kind of engage in physical actions to make it our own. So we desire the object and become attached to it. And there are different kinds of grasping. So mostly we are grasping at sensual objects. Yeah? Objects like good visual forms, pleasant visual forms, pleasant sounds, pleasant taste, pleasant smells, and pleasant touch. And there are other forms of grasping also. So this is the ninth link, grasping. So craving and grasping are very important links. We'll see what role they play in the causal sequence of impelling a new rebirth. And then there's the link called becoming or potential existence. Yeah. So the compositional factors, which is the second link, it plants an imprint or a karmic seed on the stream of consciousness after having engaged in some karmic action. So there's a seed that is planted. And then there's the eighth factor of craving and the ninth factor of grasping. They nourish that seed. So their function is to nourish that seed. So the second link is just creating the potential for a new rebirth. But craving and grasping then nourish it and take it to a point where it is about to impel a new rebirth. So they take it, they activate that imprint, they activate that seed, they nourish it and activate it. And then it becomes potent enough to propel one into a new rebirth. So that uh, potency is then held by this link called becoming, where it is ready to, impel a new rebirth. So becoming and the 10th link of becoming and the second link of compositional factors are similar, but compositional factors is merely creating a potency, whereas becoming is holding a ripened, nourished, ready to impel a new rebirth potency. Yeah. So that's the 10th link of becoming of bhava. So the ninth link is grasping, which is upadan. The 10th link is becoming or bhava. The 11th link is rebirth. So becoming has taken it to a point where it is ready to impel a new rebirth. So this link, the rebirth link, extends from the point where the activation of the karmic seed is complete. It's potent enough to propel a new rebirth. And from that point on till the conception into a new rebirth. So that is the leading the uh, potent imprint into a new conception. That is the function of this 11th link or rebirth or jati. It serves as the basis for our being conceived in one of the four types of rebirth, either through the womb uh, or born of an egg or through heat and moisture or a miraculous rebirth. So this is the function of the 11th link of rebirth. And then rebirth means a new form is created. And the moment the new form is uh, comes into existence, it starts maturing. So it initiates the link of aging. So aging is the maturing of the physical aggregates, whereas death is the destruction of the physical aggregates or the cessation of the life force. So from the moment you're reborn, new form is in place. The process of aging and dying has already started. Yeah. So that is the 12th link, the link of uh, Jara Marana. Jara is aging, and then Maran is death. Yeah. So these are the 12 links. So how do you classify these 12 links to get a better understanding of what these links do? What is the function of these links? So these links can be categorized into these four categories. There's a class called the class of the projecting factors. Then there's the class of links which is called the actualizing factors, actualizing causes and projecting causes. And then there are the projected effects or the projected factors and the actualized factors or the actualized effects. So the projecting factors are the link number 1 and 2 essentially. And then some part of the third link, say 3A here, which is the causal consciousness, because it is holding the imprint that is planted in the mind stream by the compositional factor, the second link. So ignorance motivates a certain physical action or a mental action or a verbal action. And that takes on, that creates karma, the second link of compositional factors. And that karma then plants a seed, imprint in the causal consciousness. So these are the projecting factors or the projecting causes. And then there are the actualizing causes or the actualizing factors, link number 8, 9, and 10. Craving, grasping, and becoming. Why they are called actualizing and what is the function, we'll see in a moment. And then there are the projected factors, which are the resultant consciousness, name and form, six senses, contact, and feeling. So the five uh, links, they make up the class of the projected effects or the projected factors. And then there's the fourth class, which is the actualized effects or the actualized factors. 11th and the 12th link, birth and aging and death. So I've used a color code in this slide. Not sure how well it's visible on your screens, but just to kind of highlight the difference, the categories, the four categories of the 12 links. So the first one, ignorance and compositional factors, is the projecting causes. Then the 8th, 9th, and the 10th links, craving, grasping, and becoming, are the actualizing causes. And the projecting causes create the projected effects, which are consciousness, name and form, the six senses, contact, and feeling. And the actualizing factors, actualizing causes, lead to the actualized effects of rebirth and aging and death. Yeah. So, what do you mean by the projecting factors? So, the function of the projecting factors, the first 2.5 links, is to yield a planted karmic seed, or a karma that can potentially issue, it can potentially issue forth the entity of a new rebirth. So it can potentially issue. It's not certain that it will issue. You can still do some things to purify that karma, yeah, and ensure that it does not yield the karmic fruit. But it has the potential. So the projecting factors create this potential which can issue forth the entity of a new rebirth. So you can actually think about these three factors through these similes. So the first link of ignorance, which is the motivation factor uh, that motivates the physical action, that can be thought about as the sower of the seed. Yeah, the agent that sows the seed. The seed itself is the compositional factor or the second link, the karmic action, which is motivated by the first link of ignorance. And the field or the earth that holds the seed uh, is the third link, the causal consciousness. It holds the potency of the accumulated karma. Yeah. So these are the projecting factors. The actualizing factors, their function is to yield a ready to sprout karmic seed. So it is ready to sprout. Yeah. So the seed is there and it's been nurtured with other helpful conditions, favorable conditions like moisture and fertilizer and etc. And that seed is now ready to sprout. So the actualizing factors have this function to take it to a point where it is ready to sprout. Take that karmic seed to the point where it is ready to yield a new rebirth, impel a new rebirth. So karma that is certain to issue forth the entity of karmic fruitional ripening. So in the first case, it was potentially issue. Yeah? Here it is certain to issue because it's been nurtured by the actualizing factors of craving and grasping and becoming. So craving and grasping, you can think of them as nourishers of the karmic seed. So craving and grasping, they provide the manure, the fertilizer, the heat and the moisture to nourish the seed and to activate it to be able to produce the karmic fruit. And the link of becoming is like the carer or the nurturer of the activated seed. So it holds the potency. So becoming takes the activated seed to the point of conception into the new rebirth. Yeah. So this is the function of the actualizing factors. Link number 8, 9, and 10. What is the function of the projected factors? So the projected factors are those things. When you speak about projected factors, you are actually referring to those things which, when actualized, can be designated as being born, aging, or dying. So what can be designated as being born or aging or dying? It's your form, or it's your senses. So those are the things which are being referred to here when we speak about the projected factors. So what are the projected factors? It's the resultant consciousness, the name and form, the six senses, contact, and feeling. So these are the projected factors. So projected means having created the effects that are conducive to actualization. Actualization by the actualizing factors of craving and grasping. Yeah. So these are the projected factors. And then you have the actualized factors, which are the effect of the actualizing factors. So actualized factors is the sprout that has grown from the karmic seed. And then the karmic seed has been actualized by the actualizing factors. So the karmic seed is the function of the projecting factors. And that has been nurtured by the nourished and nurtured by the actualizing factors of craving, grasping, and becoming. And then that yields the sprout. It sprouts, yeah, in the form of a new rebirth. So that is the actualized factor. So with rebirth, of course, aging and dying has already started. Yeah. So rebirth, aging, and dying are the actualized factors. Rebirth and aging and dying are the actualized factors. And it occurs, the actualization occurs by means of empowerment of the latent karmic propensities which are there in your mind stream. These are then nourished and nurtured by the links of grasping, craving, grasping, and becoming. So these are the actualized factors. So these are the four classes in which you can categorize the 12 links of dependent origination. And in terms of one cycle from ignorance to a new rebirth, the whole causal sequence, if it is thought of in terms of one cycle, yeah. So the presentation that you saw in the previous picture is just a causal sequencing. But in terms of how the sequence evolves or develops to yield a new rebirth, this is the sequence as it's shown in the slide here. So it starts with ignorance, avidya. Avidya leads to some sort of karma that you engage in, karmic action, plants a karmic seed in the stream of consciousness. Yeah. And that stream, that karmic seed is then nourished by craving and grasping and nurtured by becoming, taken to a point where it can yield a new rebirth. Yeah. So that new rebirth comes with a name and form. So the link of rebirth is activated. Name and form is comes into existence. With name and form, the six senses start developing. With the six senses, then contact arises, and with contact, feeling arises. Yeah, with rebirth, aging and dying has already initiated. So this is the order in which the 12 links would progress when we speak about one cycle of completion of the 12 links. Yeah. What we saw in the circular diagram was just this causal arrangement. Yeah. Here we are talking about how ignorance leads to a new rebirth, and then the new rebirth then creates more conditions for a future rebirth. Yeah, so that is being explained here. This is the order in which those links would be activated. To give an example, if you think about rebirth as a god, so for God you need for rebirth in the realm of gods. Let's talk about rebirth in the desire realm, God. Yeah, desire realm. Uh, so you need some positive karma, some wholesome karma, meritorious karma. So you engage in the action of abandoning the non-virtuous actions of the 10 non-virtues, or maybe you engage in some action of generosity, but you haven't cultivated the wisdom of selflessness or emptiness. Hence, your action is still kind of tainted by ignorance. And here, the ignorance is not the ignorance of the law of karma, but the ignorance of suchness, the ignorance of the true nature of reality. So you engage in a generous act where you still grasp at the autonomous existence of the giver, the autonomous existence of the receiver, the autonomous existence of the object that is given. So you're still ignorant about the true nature of reality. If you had abandoned this ignorance, then you would know that the giver and the receiver are devoid of any kind of autonomous essence. You'd be aware of the fact that even the object that is transferred is devoid of an autonomous essence. Yeah, but you don't have that wisdom so far, but you still engaged in a meritorious action. So it creates positive karma, meritorious karma. And then that meritorious karma plants a seed. So you can see here in the causal consciousness. So that causal consciousness holds the karmic seed, and that these are the projecting factors in this rectangle here. These are the projecting factors. These projecting factors are then they plant the karmic seed. The karmic seed is then worked on by the factors of craving and grasping. So the aspect of craving in this case would be where the person says that it would be nice to experience sensual pleasures meaning the pleasures of the desire realm. Yeah. So he craves for the sensual pleasures of the desire realm. He's experienced some pleasant experiences in this lifetime, and he wants more of those in the future also. So he's craving for these kind of pleasant experiences, good, pleasant, visions, pleasant sounds, pleasant sights, all those kind of sensual experiences. He's craving for that. And that craving becomes a little more intense, and he grasps at that those sensual experiences, sensual pleasures, and he says, I want to own these sensual pleasures. I want to enjoy these sensual pleasures. So the craving has become intense, it's become intensified, and it has taken on the form of this grasping, yeah, where you are kind of almost urged, or you uh, drive your physical person or the mental mind to own that object which is the source of that sensual pleasure. So they nourish this karmic seed. Yeah. So the karmic seed has the potency to yield a rebirth in the higher realm. And here you're kind of nourishing it with the craving for sensual pleasures of the desire realm, grasping for those sensual pleasures of the desire realm. And then at death, that karma, that karmic seed, uh, is certain to propel a new rebirth. Yeah. And in this case, it will be a new rebirth in the form of a god in the desire realm, because you created that kind of karma. So that becoming holds, this factor of becoming holds that potency where it is ready to yield the new rebirth. So these three are the actualizing factors. 8, 9, 10 are the actualizing factors. And they yield these results, which are the projected effects and the actualized effects. So the actualized effect would be the rebirth as a god. And with the rebirth as a god, his process of aging and dying has already begun. So the 12 link has already been actualized. And with rebirth, you've taken on a new form with the new resultant consciousness. New form leads to the six senses, sense organs. Organs lead to contact and feeling. So these are the projected factors. So this is how the actualizing factors, projecting factors, actualizing factors would trigger the actualized factors and the projected factors in the case of rebirth as a god. And if you speak about the number of lifetimes it requires to complete all the 12 links. So in the simplest case, it would take 2 lifetimes. Shortest case where uh, ignorance influence motivates a certain action. You engage in the action of, let's say, stealing, which is a non-virtuous action. Uh, and hence is possible it's going to lead to rebirth in one of the lower ramps, yeah. Or let's say killing, you've taken the life of a certain person, and that is going to impel a rebirth in the lower ram. So ignorance plants the seed. So ignorance motivates the compositional factor link, the karma plants the seed, that is then nourished by craving, grasping, in this lifetime itself. Towards the end of the lifetime, craving and grasping, a certain kind of craving for pleasures of the desire ram arise at the time of death. At the time of death, that craving then becomes intense and it takes on the form of grasping. So craving and grasping have nurtured that karmic seed, which was planted in the mind stream in this lifetime itself. And then becoming holds the potency, which is the potency is ready to yield a new rebirth. Yeah. And then in the immediate next lifetime, the actualized factors of rebirth and aging and dying, they are actualized. Immediate next lifetime. So there's no intervening lifetime between these two. So it is possible to, with the rebirth and the aging and dying in the next lifetime, with rebirth, name and form, consciousness, name and form, six senses, contact, and feeling, they would arise in the next lifetime. Yeah. So rebirth and aging and dying, next lifetime, and also the projected factors of consciousness, name and form, six sense organs, contact and feeling, all those would arise in the next lifetime. So the first five, for the 5 links in this lifetime and 7 links in the next lifetime without any intervening lifetime. So the cycle, the entire cycle gets completed in 2 lifetimes. But it's also possible that you created uh, karma in some past life, or let's say in this lifetime. Let's say you create some negative karma in this lifetime. Yeah. And so out of ignorance, you engage in the action of, out of hatred and ignorance, you engage in the action of killing. It leads to negative karma. It plants a karmic seed on the causal consciousness. So all those two and a half links are activated in this lifetime. At the time of death, some previous karmic seed of some positive action, which is heavier than, weightier than this karmic seed that you planted in this lifetime, that is kind of, that becomes manifest at the time of death, and it is kind of nurtured by associated craving and grasping and becoming, and that yields a rebirth into the human realm or the realm of gods. Yeah. So that is that is the effect of some other karmic seed which was planted in previous life, one of your previous lifetimes. The karmic seed that was planted in this lifetime is held in your mind stream maybe for 100 more lifetimes, and then after the 100th lifetime, in your 100th lifetime, yeah, from now, uh, craving and grasping nourishes this karmic seed which you have planted in this lifetime, and becoming holds the potency, and it yields a rebirth as a hell being after the 100th lifetime. And then the other projected factors and the actual factors uh, become manifest. So it's taken 3 lifetimes for the entire link, the causal sequence, to be complete. So at the longest, it can take 3 lifetimes. At the shortest, it can take 2 lifetimes. If it is completed over 2 lifetimes, then uh, there's no intervening lifetime between the projecting factors and the projected factors, actualizing factors and the actualized factors. If it's spread over 3 lifetimes, and there could be like any number of lifetimes between the projecting factors and the actualizing factors. The actualizing factors and the projected factors and the actualized factors have to be, uh, you know, uh, uh, it has to follow. It has to be in subsequent lifetime itself, directly after uh, the lifetime in which the activity of the actualizing factors was completed. So that's how the entire cycle could be completed either over 1 lifetime or over 2 lifetimes. So the 12 links can also be further classified into these 3 links. So there are links which are in the nature of afflictions, negative emotions. There are links which are in the form of suffering experience itself. And there are links which are in the form of karma or karmic actions. So ignorance, craving, and grasping are affliction links. Uh, and then compositional factors, the second link, sanskar and bhava. These are the karma links. And the others are all suffering links. Yeah? Okay, so the suffering links, the affliction links, and the karma links. So there are 3 affliction links, there are 2 karma links, and then there are 7 suffering links. So the 2 karmic factors, the karmic links of compositional factor and becoming, they arise from the 3 afflictions. So karma is rooted in afflictions. So karmic factors are rooted in afflictive factors of ignorance, craving, and grasping. And from karma, then the other 7 suffering factors arise of consciousness, name and form, senses, contact, feeling, birth, aging, and death. They arise. And when there's fresh contact and fresh feeling, and you have registered feelings of happiness or suffering or neutrality based on contact with pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral objects, then that feeling could trigger a new round of craving and grasping, and that then triggers a new cycle of karmic ripening. So afflictions arise out of the 7 sufferings. So initially it's the afflictions which lead to karma leads to suffering, but the suffering then lead to new forms of afflictions, and then the cycle keeps continuing. So this is how the wheel of existence turns without any kind of interruption, as Nagarjuna, Arya Nagarjuna has noted in his text called Heart of Dependent Arising. From the 3 arise the 2. From the 3 afflictions arise the 2 karmic factors. From the 2 karmic factors arise the 7 suffering factors. And again from the 7 arise the 3 afflictions. The wheel of existence itself repeatedly turns. So this is how the cycle keeps repeating. Yeah. So, okay, maybe we'll stop here. We'll just end the discussion with this. So the whole objective of studying this 12 links of dependent origination is to familiarize ourselves with the causal process of, uh, you know, impelling new rebirths. But that process can be interrupted. It can be stopped through proper training. Yeah. If you eliminate the ignorance in your mind stream, ignorance about the law of karma and the ignorance of the true nature of reality, then that leads to cessation of the second factor, the compositional factor. So your actions will not be motivated by any kind of ignorance. Your actions will not be motivated by any kind of afflictions. In which case, the karma that you create will not have the potential to impel a negative rebirth. Yeah. And if you eliminated even the ignorance of suchness from your mind stream, then it leads to cessation of the causes that could impel any kind of rebirth. So you would reach a state where you attained control over the process of rebirth. So you can be reborn in samsara through the power of your own prayers. So you attained control over that process. Till you remove this ignorance of suchness from your mind stream, you do not have absolute control over that process. For most of us, we are kind of wandering in this samsara powerlessly. At the time of death, some karmic imprint from the past will get activated. We do not know what it is. We don't have any control. But with appropriate training, for example, if we are to invest in the training of compassion, in the training of the mind of enlightenment, and at the time of death, you can invoke that training, train yourself sufficiently so that you can invoke that training at your will. Yeah. So at the time of death, if you can invoke that training and you can generate a mind of, you can generate the mind, and it takes on the aspect of compassion or bodhicitta. That is a virtuous state of mind, and that cannot become a cause for rebirth in the lower realms. Yeah. It can only become a cause for more fortunate rebirths. Yeah. So through appropriate training, you can arrest that process, that causal process, and you can ensure that you can have happier, more favorable rebirths. Happier meaning favorable for spiritual practice. Yeah. So that process, if you interrupt, it can lead to this causal sequence, the transcendental order. So suffering leads to faith. So if you understood the concept of suffering, then you generate faith in the three jewels, because they are the source of liberating you from the suffering. Faith leads to joy, rapture, tranquility, happiness, and then concentration. With concentration, you can develop the knowledge of suchness. And if you know the true nature of reality, then you become disenchanted with things that are impermanent. You do not seek pleasure in impermanent things. You become dispassionate. You are not under the sway, under the hold of, you're not enchanted by things that are impermanent and hence cannot be the source of lasting happiness. So disenchantment would lead to dispassion, would lead to emancipation. And then with appropriate enhancement of your knowledge, you would remove all the contaminations from your mind stream, and that would arrest, that would completely stop the experience of suffering, and you would be then liberated. So that is how you can use the understanding, the your understanding of the 12 links of causation or dependent origination to further your pursuit of relief from liberation from suffering. Yeah. So, okay, so we'll stop here. And as I said, I would like to do a short prayer for um, the benefit of all the members, former members of our center who have passed on. Uh, as Deepthi mentioned, uh, just a few days back, one of our members, Dr. Shubhashini, passed on. There are other members also, or relatives of other members who passed on in the recent past. So we'll do a short prayer for them. It's a prayer called the King of Prayers or the Aspirations of Samanta Bhadra, where we recite the various aspirations inspired by great compassion made by Bodhisattva called Samanta Bhadra. And we resolve to cultivate those aspirations in our mind stream. And through the cultivation of those aspirations, then we can then develop the capacity to remove the suffering of other sentient beings, and then that would lead to merit arising in our mind stream, and we can share that merit with the deceased people, and that would help them in attaining a fortunate rebirth, which they can then use for their advancement, the spiritual advancement. So let's do that prayer, King of Prayers. And at the end of the recitation of the King of Prayers, we'll do a short dedication for all the deceased people. Okay, so let me just share that prayer with you. Okay. Okay, hope it's visible. Dipti, is it visible? Can you see the prayer text?
Yes, Venerable, yes. Can
Okay,
everyone see? Thank you.
so we'll recite this together. How do you want to do it? You want to keep the audio on, or just recite?
Whatever is suitable for you, Venerable.
No, I'll recite, but the other members, other members, do you want to unmute and recite, or you just want to
Yeah,
recite?
sure. We can do that. If it's not bothering you, we can do that.
No, it don't bother me. I don't know how good the line is. Let's try, let's try together. So those of you who want to recite together, unmute and recite together, you can unmute. Yeah. So, okay. So just take a moment to just recollect the discussion that we had today. It was about the 12 links of dependent origination, which explains the process of rebirth, the conditions, the causes and conditions which impel a new rebirth. So based on this understanding, let's also cultivate aspiration or resolve uh, to enhance our practice so that at the time of dying, we can actually invoke this training and influence this causal process to ensure that we uh, we are propelled into a more fortunate rebirth, and also wish the same for other sentient beings who are also in a similar state as us, especially those who have passed on or deceased. So let's generate that motivation. And with that motivation, let's just recite this prayer. So the extraordinary aspiration of the practice of Samanta Bhadra, Samanta Bhadracharya Pranidhana. I bow down to the youthful Arya Manjushri, you lions among humans, gone to freedom in the present, past, and future, in the worlds of 10 directions. To all of you with body, speech, and sincere mind, I bow down. With the energy of aspiration for the Bodhisattva way, with a sense of deep respect, and with as many bodies as atoms of the world, to all of you Buddhas visualized before me, I bow down. On every atom are Buddhas numberless as atoms, each amidst a host of Bodhisattvas. And I am confident the sphere of all phenomena is entirely filled with Buddhas in this way. With infinite oceans of praise for you, an ocean of sound from the aspects of my voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas and celebrate all of you gone to bliss. Beautiful flowers and regal garlands, sweet music, scented oils and parasols, sparkling lights and sublime incense I offer to you, victorious ones. Fine dress and fragrant perfumes, sandalwood powder, heaped high as Mount Meru. All wondrous offerings in spectacular array I offer to you, victorious ones. With transcendent offerings, peerless and vast, with profound admiration for all the Buddhas, with strength of conviction in the Bodhisattva way, I offer and bow down to all victorious ones. Every harmful action I have done with my body, speech, and mind, overwhelmed by attachment, anger, and confusion, all these I openly lay bare before you. I lift up my heart and rejoice in all merit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions, of solitary realizers, hearers still training on those beyond, and of all ordinary beings, you who are the bright lights of worlds in 10 directions, who have attained a Buddha's omniscience through the stages of awakening. All you who are my guides, please turn the supreme wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly request you who may actualize parinirvana, please stay with us for eons, numberless as atoms of the world, for the happiness and well being of all wanderers in samsara. Whatever slight merit I may have created, by paying homage, offering an acknowledgement, acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddha stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. So these verses talk about the seven limb prayer. So the seven limbs of homage, then offerings, then confessions, then rejoicing in the merits of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and then pleading with the Buddhas not to pass into nirvana, and pleading with them to turn the wheel of dharma, and then dedicating all our merit to the activation of the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta. So these are the seven limbs. These are what were recited so far. And then let's proceed. May you Buddhas now living in the worlds of 10 directions and all you gone to freedom in the past accept my offerings. May those not yet arisen quickly perfect their minds, awakening as fully enlightened ones. May all worlds in 10 directions be entirely pure and vast. May they be filled with bodhisattvas surrounding Buddhas gathered beneath a Bodhi tree. May as many beings as exist in 10 directions be always well and happy. May all samsaric beings live in accord with the Dharma, and may their every Dharma wish be fulfilled. Remembering my past lives in all varieties of existence, may I practice the Bodhisattva way, and thus, in each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life. Then, following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a Bodhisattva, may I always act without error or compromise, with ethical conduct, faultless and pure. May I teach the Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirits and nagas, of humans and of demons, and in the voice of every form of being. May I be gentle minded, cultivating the six paramitas, and never forget bodhicitta. May I completely cleanse without omission every negativity and all that obscures this awakening mind. May I traverse all my lives in the world free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces, just as the lotus blossom is undisturbed by water waves, just as the sun and the moon move unhindered through the sky. May I ease the suffering in the lower realms and in the many directions and dimensions of the universe. May I guide all wanderers in samsara to the pure bliss of awakening and be of worldly benefit to them all. May I practice constantly for eons to come, perfecting the activities of awakening, acting in harmony with the various dispositions of beings, showing the ways of Bodhisattva. May I always have the friendship of those whose path is like mine, and with body, words, and also mind, may we practice together the same aspirations and activities. May I always meet a spiritual mentor and never displease that excellent friend who deeply wishes to help me and expertly teaches the Bodhisattva way. May I always directly see the Buddhas, masters encircled by Bodhisattvas, and without pause or discouragement for eons to come, may I make extensive offerings to them. May I hold within me the Buddha's genuine Dharma, illuminate everywhere the teachings that awaken, embody the realizations of a Bodhisattva, and practice ardently in all future eons. While circling through all states of existence, may I become an endless treasure of good qualities, skillful means, wisdom, samadhi, and liberating stabilizations, gathering limitless, pristine wisdom and merit. On one atom I shall see Buddha wills numberless as atoms, inconceivable Buddhas among bodhisattvas in every field, practicing the activities of awakening. Perceiving this in all directions, I dive into an ocean of Buddha fields, each an ocean of three times Buddhas in the space of a wisp of a hair. So I too will practice for an ocean of eons. Thus, I am continually immersed in the speech of the Buddhas, expression that reveals an ocean of qualities in one word, the completely pure eloquence of all the Buddhas, communication suited to the varied tendencies of beings. With strength of understanding, I plunge into the infinite awakened speech of the Dharma, of all Buddhas in the three times gone to freedom who continually turn the wheel of Dharma methods. I shall experience in one moment such vast activity of all future eons, and I will enter into all eons of the three times in but a fraction of a second. In one instant, I shall see all those awakened beings, past, present, and future lions among humans, and with the power of the illusion like stabilization, I will constantly engage in their inconceivable activity. I shall manifest upon one single atom the array of pure lands, present, past, and future. Likewise, I shall enter the area of pure Buddha fields in every direction without exception. I shall enter the very presence of all my guides, those lights of this world who are yet to appear, those sequentially turning the wheels of complete awakening, those who reveal nirvana, final perfect peace. May I achieve the power of swift magical emanation, the power to lead to the great vehicle through every approach, the power of always beneficial activity, the power of love pervading all realms, the power of all surpassing merit, the power of supreme knowledge, unobstructed by discrimination, and through the powers of wisdom, skillful means, and samadhi, may I achieve the perfect power of awakening, purifying the power of all contaminated actions, crushing the power of disturbing emotions at the root, diffusing the power of interfering forces. I shall perfect the power of the Bodhisattva practice. May I purify an ocean of worlds, may I free an ocean of beings, may I clearly see an ocean of dharma, may I realize an ocean of pristine wisdom, may I purify an ocean of activities, may I fulfill an ocean of aspirations, may I make offerings to an ocean of Buddhas, may I practice without discouragement for an ocean of eons. To awaken fully through this Bodhisattva way, I shall fully fulfill without exception all the diverse aspirations of the awakening practice of all Buddhas gone to freedom in the three times everywhere. In order to practice exactly as the wise one, called Samantabhadra, all embracing good, the elder brother of the sons and the daughters of the Buddhas, I completely dedicate all this goodness. Likewise, may I dedicate, just as the skillful Samantabhadra, with pure body, speech, and mind, pure actions and pure Buddha feels. I shall give rise to the aspirations of Manjushri for this Bodhisattva practice of all embracing good, to perfect these perfect practices without discouragement or pause in all future eons. May my pure activities be endless, my good qualities boundless, and through abiding in immeasurable activity, may I actualize infinite emanations. Limitless is the end of space, likewise, limitless are living beings. Thus, limitless are karma and afflictions. May my aspirations reach be limitless as well. One may offer to the Buddhas all wealth and adornments of infinite worlds in 10 directions, and one may offer during eons numberless as atoms of the world, even the greatest happiness of gods and humans. But whoever hears this extraordinary aspiration and longing for highest awakening, gives rise to faith just once, creates far more precious merit. Those who make this heartfelt aspiration for the Bodhisattva way will be free of all lower rebirths, free of harmful companions, and will quickly see Amitabha, infinite light. And even in this very human life, they will be nourished by happiness and have all conducive circumstances. Without waiting long, they will become Samantabhadra himself. Those who give voice to this extraordinary aspiration will quickly and completely purify the fine, boundless, harmful actions created under the power of ignorance. Blessed with supreme knowledge, excellent body, family, attributes, and appearance, they will be invincible to vast interfering forces and misleading teachers. And all the three worlds will make offerings. Going quickly to the noble Bodhi tree and sitting there to be with sentient beings, subduing all interfering forces, they will fully awaken and turn the great wheel of Dharma. Have no doubt that complete awakening is the fully ripened result, comprehended only by a Buddha, of holding in mind by teaching, reading, or reciting this aspiration of the Bodhisattva practice. In order to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality as it is, and just like Samantabhadra as well, I completely dedicate all this goodness just as they did. With that dedication, which is praised as greatest by all the Buddhas gone to freedom in the three times, I too dedicate all my roots of goodness for the attainment of the Bodhisattva practice. When the moment of my death arrives, by eliminating all obscurations and directly perceiving Amitabha, may I go immediately to Sukhavati, pure land of great joy. Having gone to Sukhavati, may I actualize the meaning of these aspirations. fulfilling them all without exception, for the benefit of beings for as long as this world endures. Born from an extremely beautiful superlative lotus in this joyful land, the Buddha's magnificent mandala, may I receive a prediction of my awakening directly from the Buddha Amitabh. Having received a prediction there, may I create vast benefit for beings throughout the 10 directions with a billion emanations by the power of wisdom. Through even the small virtue I have accumulated by offering this prayer or the Bodhisattva practice, may all the positive aspirations of beings be fulfilled in an instant. Through creating limitless merit by dedicating this prayer of Samantha Bhadra's deeds, may all beings drowning in this torrent of suffering enter the presence of Amitabh. Through this king of aspirations, which is the greatest of the sublime, helping infinite wanderers in samsara, through the accomplishment of the scripture dazzling with Samantha Bhadra's practice, may suffering realms be utterly emptied of all beings. May suffering realms be utterly emptied of all beings, including all those who were connected with our center and have passed on. So may suffering realms be utterly emptied of all beings. So through even the small virtue I've accumulated by offering this prayer of the Bodhisattva practice, may all the positive aspirations of all the sentient beings be fulfilled in an instant. Okay, let's just wrap up this prayer with a short dedication. So I'll recite a dedication for the people who have passed on. So this prayer, of course, is being requested by CKSL members. So by virtue of all the merit accrued to those requesting the dedication, which is the CKSL members, by virtue of all this merit, may the Dharma prosper and may the well-being of all sentient beings be ensured. May the pure Dharma abide till samsara ends, and may all the pure upholders of the Dharma, in principle, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all the other noble gurus, have long lives, and may all their compassionate prayers be spontaneously realized. May the Bodhisattva aspirations of the supremely compassionate yogi, Kyabje Lama Thubten Zopa Rinpoche, presently displaying the form of one departed to the pure realms, be thoroughly realized, and may his unmistaken reincarnation return swiftly to guide us, and may the reincarnate continue and fulfill his various activities from the previous life. May all those related to us, CKS members, who have departed, in particular, Dr. Subhashini and Dr. K.V. Mehta, father of Saket Mehta, was also a member of our center, and all the others who have departed, uh, may they swiftly obtain the exalted state of the four bodies of complete enlightenment through a swift accumulation of wisdom and merit and a swift purification of all the transgressions and negative karma. May all those related to us who are still alive, in particular those who are maybe slightly indisposed, benefit from a quick pacification of all their immediate obstacles in the form of poor health, in the form of economic difficulties, etc. And may they realize success in all their present and future activities. So generate your mind in the aspect of this aspiration and prayer, and take a moment. Okay, so we'll stop with that dedication. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time and patience. We don't have much time for questions. Maybe if there are any doubts or questions, you can relay those questions to me through our coordinators, Dipti, Shanti, or you can email the questions to them, and they can forward those questions to me. And then we'll take up those questions in the future session. Okay, thank you very much.
Wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of announcements for everyone. Next week, we are going to have teachings by Venerable Gyalten Legden in Bangalore, and it will also be offered online. Please come to the center if you can, and it will be very nice to have you all there. Also, we are looking for volunteers for our center to help us with accounting and other small tasks. If you're interested, please let us know at info@cksl.in. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you all of you. Have a good day.
Wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.